Welcome to Impact Makers Radio, featuring industry thought leaders sharing problem-solving insights to help grow your business and live the life you love. And here's your host, Stewart Andrew Alexander.
Hi, and welcome to another Let's Talk Bankruptcy conversation. And on this segment of the show, I have bankruptcy attorneys Tracy Banks and Kimberly Berson, who are both principals of Banks Berson LLP, calling in all the way from Melville in New York. Now, Tracy and Kim have a wealth of experience in the area of bankruptcy, and they're both here to discuss a very interesting topic. Now, both Kim and Tracy are going to be talking about bankruptcy and why it's not a bad word. Now, that sounds like a really interesting topic. So if you are one of the many people who find themselves in that unfortunate position of facing bankruptcy in the Melville, New York area, it might be a good idea just to take a break. Log out of Facebook. Come on, give yourself a break. Grab a cup of tea, grab yourself a notepad and pen, and get ready to take some notes as we listen in to what Tracy and Kim have to share with us today. So, without any further ado, let's bring them both onto the show. Welcome to the show, Tracy and Kim. Hi, guys.
Hi, thank you so much for having us on the show.
You are so welcome. We're really excited about having you both here. We know you're really busy over there in sunny old New York. So let's just jump feet first in with our first question of the day. If you could, in your own words, just briefly describe the kinds of people who you serve and the various types of situations that they find themselves in when they come to you for your help.
Well, Stuart, there's many different types of individuals. Most of those individuals are financially distressed. Bankruptcy is most of the time it's their last alternative. They've been trying to deal with their mortgage payments, their credit card debts, the collection calls. They're hesitant to file. Most times they feel bankruptcy is a bad word. Bankruptcy has a bad stigma. They're embarrassed, they're ashamed, and they're generally unhappy with their overall situation. Mm-hmm. Those are the people that Kim and I, we want to help them, explain to them that there are ways that they can go through bankruptcy and come out with a good credit report and a good fresh start.
Right. So with that said, Tracy, and before we go any further, it must be said that anything that you both share with us today is not legal advice or legal assistance. It's purely for the purpose of sharing information. Now, with that said, what's the most common misconception that you come across while you're out there helping your clients on a day-to-day basis?
The common misconception is that most bankruptcy filers have abused the system, that they charge up their credit cards, then they file bankruptcy to avoid making those payments. And the people who have come to Kim and I usually have different types of situations. A perfect example is, let's say, a breadwinner who lost his job because of the economy, the recession. Or a single mom who's gone through a bad divorce and has resulted to using her credit cards to survive and take care of her family. I've dealt with many people who've undergone medical conditions, have lost their job. They can't pay the medical bills. Insurance won't cover a lot of the bills, co-payments, and that seems to be one of the probably most prevalent of the people that I've seen. And there's always that person who's fallen behind on their mortgage payments. Their house has gone into foreclosure, and bankruptcy actually can stop a foreclosure sale and help people get back on the right track, force the banks to come to the table. So those are probably some very good examples of people who I've dealt with, and why the misconception that bankruptcy is a bad word. I truly don't believe it is. I think it can be a great decision and help people out of those situations.
So in your experience then, where do you think this common misconception comes from? Why do people generally have this this attitude, this perception that the word bankruptcy is such a bad thing?
Because I feel that people believe that these people are only the people who overuse their credit cards and they take advantage, which there are definitely those people out there who try to take advantage of the bankruptcy. But the bankruptcy code has changed, and they make it more difficult for those people who try to abuse the system by overusing their credit cards. Now they have certain provisions in the bankruptcy code which prevent people from transferring assets before they file bankruptcy, or paying certain creditors and not paying other creditors. It become misconception as these are the only types of people that file bankruptcy, and in actuality, it's very rare that we get those people. We really get the people who are in desperate situations that are in need of help.
Now, from a layman's perspective, then, I can only imagine that if there's somebody out there who's listening in right now and they find themselves in that unfortunate position of facing bankruptcy, that they may be one or two people who, just might want to stick their head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. Is that something that you come across while you're out there helping people?
Well, that's the biggest problem. People wait too long. People don't want to file bankruptcy. They think it's a bad word. So what ends up happening is they hold off as long as they can, gets to the point where their houses go into foreclosure. And bankruptcy is the only way to stop the foreclosure. Had they, come to a bankruptcy attorney ahead of time, maybe we could have guided them other ways. Bankruptcy isn't for everybody. There are other ways that they can negotiate debts with banks. But most times, like I said before, it's the last resort.
All right.
And once they, start getting the collection calls and they getting the late notices and they're paying the minimum payments on their credit cards, and when they're late, they go into default interest rate, which could be up to 29%, and they're not touching the principal. When they're in those situations, there's no other alternative but to file bankruptcy.
All
The
right.
banks won't deal with them anymore. The calls won't stop. Then they realize they don't have a choice.
Now, as a reminder, today's topic is bankruptcy is not a bad word, and here's why. Now, with that in mind, and for those people who find themselves in that unfortunate position and they're wanting to know more, what's the most common, and I'll put this question to Kim, what's the most common but unknown pitfall that they might not, but definitely should be aware of, regardless of what situation they find themselves in?
Okay, the one pitfall, I've had a lot of experience representing Chapter 7 trustees. And what we try to stress to our clients is full and complete, accurate, and fair disclosure is the most important thing you can do in preparing your bankruptcy petition. And this is the reason why. You prepare your bankruptcy petition, you must list all your assets or your liabilities and other financial information. Then there's going to be a 341 meeting of creditors where a trustee, that's a court-appointed official, will examine the debtor as to what is contained within the petition. Now, many times, the debtor, they have to gather a lot of documents in order to prepare that petition. And they may believe that, maybe something related to their finances is not important. Or, they fail to disclose it and their petition has been prepared already. Then they get to the 341 meeting. The trustee examines them. They have answer. He or she asks questions, and then that financial information comes out that wasn't in the petition. That is one of the biggest problems, because when it comes out, when the trustee is examining them, it starts an element of mistrust. It's like a red flag that other things may not be included within the petition. If the debtor or client fails to put something in the petition, just tell counsel, and counsel will advise the trustee, and the petition could be amended. But at the 341 meeting, hoping the trustee won't ask that question or won't find out, it's just not a a good strategy, because then at that time, the 341 meeting most likely will be adjourned. There'll be additional documentation that the trustee will want, and basically the petition will be re-reviewed by the trustee under a very fine-tooth comb. So the biggest pitfall, I would say, is not advising counsel of something that may not be contained within the petition, and addressing the situation, proactively instead of defensively.
So, Kim, first of all, that's some sage advice there. Thank you very much for sharing that. So let me ask you this thing, Kim. If one does not give full disclosure, what could be the repercussions of that?
Okay, the repercussions could be the trustee commences an action seeking to deny their discharge. And then you're basically filing a petition to get a discharge, and, you might not receive your discharge. So
full disclosure is the most important thing then, yes, if I understand you correctly?
It's vital.
Thank you so much. While both of you are still on the line, if there is somebody out there who is looking to take on the services of bankruptcy attorneys like yourselves, what are one or two questions they should ask that professional to help them determine whether to move forward or not?
Okay, I think they should ask, one is whether bankruptcy is even appropriate for them. Because bankruptcy may not be appropriate for every situation. And then I believe the second question would be, who's going to guide me through this process? Because in many instances, a client can be guided by a legal assistant or paralegal,
right,
and not an attorney, and they kind of get lost. Will you, the attorney that they're meeting, are they going to appear at the 341 meeting with them? Many times there's of counsel appearance that might appear who doesn't know who may not know everything about the file. So that's what I think is important to ask when screening your attorney.
How long have you guys been working together again? You said earlier on in our pre-call. Could you just remind me and the listeners how long you've been working together?
Well, we just started our law firm 6 months ago, but Tracy and I knew each other back when we were young attorneys, right from when we met in the bankruptcy court. So we've known each other for over 20 years.
Right. So there's a combined experience of over 20 years there, or even more?
We both have over 20 years experience each. And because of our combined experience, we've represented all interests in the bankruptcy field: debtors, creditors, litigants, institutional lenders.
Right. So would it be safe to say that you've, between the both of you, handled hundreds of cases?
Yes, I'd say so, over the course of our career.
This is a question to you, Tracy. Let's imagine it's a Monday morning and the alarm clock goes off at 7 a.m. in the morning, and you have a full day ahead of you helping your clients, people who find themselves in that unfortunate position facing bankruptcy. How does Tracy feel on a morning like that? Are you still motivated even after 20 years and hundreds of cases?
Well, what's interesting, Stewart, is every single case is different. Everybody has different situations. And I think the reason why Kim and I came together is having been at different law firms, large firms, small firms, representing creditors, debtors. We've seen every situation. Right. And us coming together, it's because we've seen disgruntled debtors. We've seen people who aren't guided correctly. And this is our way of kind of giving back. So after 20 years, the experience has helped me understand, has made us understand what needs to be done. And we want to help people step by step. It's really more of us coming together and doing it ourselves after seeing all the pitfalls. We want to do it. We want to make things better. So yes, each day I look forward to going in and seeing it's different every day. No case is exactly the same.
Could you then just share a little bit about your background, and especially in terms of your formal education and experience as it relates to the topic of bankruptcy?
Well, I graduated the University of Michigan. I went to Hofstra Law School, which is on Long Island. While I was in law school, I interned for the bankruptcy professor. Shortly thereafter, I interned for Judge Feller, who's an Eastern District bankruptcy judge in Brooklyn. I then started a small firm, bankruptcy firm. Basically, every single job has been bankruptcy. That's where I solely practice bankruptcy because all of my experience revolves around bankruptcy. I've worked at large Manhattan firms in bankruptcy departments, representing institutional creditors committees. I've worked at small law firms, handling the 7 and 13 department. I've worked for a solo practitioner, working on Chapter 11 cases. Kim, my partner, has a tremendous amount of experience representing many Chapter 7 trustees, and she has tremendous litigation experience. So between the two of us, I think we've covered almost every part of the bankruptcy profession. We have tremendous experience between the two of us.
Fantastic. So I'd just like you to picture the kinds of people who do come to you for your help, and they're wanting to dig a little deeper into the topic of, why bankruptcy would not be such a bad thing after all. Now, with that picture in mind, what final thoughts would you like to leave them with before we move on to our last question for today?
Again, I don't believe bankruptcy is a bad word. I believe that most people they shouldn't look at it as a last alternative. If they come and see a bankruptcy attorney before it gets so bad, then we can actually plan for a bankruptcy filing. And sometimes bankruptcy is not the way to go. Sometimes we can negotiate with a creditor. If there's only a single creditor or two creditors, sometimes it doesn't make sense to file bankruptcy. We can negotiate out of court. But what bankruptcy does allow you to do, in a Chapter 13, let's say somebody falls behind on their mortgage payments, and now all of a sudden they try to make a payment to the bank after they get a new job, but their case has already been in the foreclosure department. The banks won't negotiate with you. If they file a Chapter 13, you're now forcing the banks to negotiate with you. So it can be a tool, a corporate tool. It can be a tool to force the banks to come to the table. So, my advice would be is don't look at it as a bad thing. It's actually, it can be very helpful in many situations.
Well, this has been a really good conversation. Unfortunately, we are out of time then, Tracy and Kim. So if there is somebody out there who has been listening and will be listening in the future to this interview, to our conversation today, and after taking in everything what you guys have shared with us, feel that, hey, maybe bankruptcy is not such a bad word after all, how would they be able to reach out to you? Where would they find you?
They can get in touch with us. We have a website, www. Banks Berson. They can reach us by phone. Our phone number is 516-584-3399. Again, we have free consultation. They can come in. We can explain to them whether or not bankruptcy is right for them. If they need us to negotiate with a creditor, we can guide them through. With the experience we have, I believe it can probably help anybody coming to us at this point.
Fantastic. Well, again, that's all we do have time for today. That was bankruptcy attorneys Tracy Banks and Kimberly Berson. Thank you so much for sharing so generously with us today, Tracy and Kim. You have certainly demonstrated that you're both true educators and advocates for your client's success. So thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. Thank you so much for having us on the show.
You are so welcome. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to you. Yes, our listener. Without you, we wouldn't have anybody to speak to. So again, thank you for joining us on what I can only describe as a very insightful and informative discussion with two of the top bankruptcy attorneys in the Melville, New York area today. Again, that was Tracy Banks and Kimberly Berson. Remember their names. Make sure you do check them out. Give them a call. I am sure that after today's conversation that you're going to be in the right place. So that's it, folks. Again, my name is Stewart Andrew Alexander, and we'll be back shortly with some more leading bankruptcy professionals in this, our series of Let's Talk Bankruptcy Conversations. So, until then, take care, have a great day, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Impact Makers Radio. To listen to all past, present and future industry thought leaders and trendsetters, visit us at impactmakersradio.com.